So today I wanted to work in this sketchbook that I bought for myself a few months ago, and then after I got it I realized that it was all AI generated art. It did say that in the description, but I didn't notice it when I purchased it. Some of the things in here are actually reasonable, but most of them aren't really that good for coloring. But I thought it'd be interesting to kind of flip through here and see if there were any pieces in here that I could color and make into a reasonable piece of art. The paper quality in here is not great. It's pretty thin. You can kind of hear that. It's pretty thin, but the nice thing is they didn't print anything on the back, so that means that I can just slide a piece of paper in there and not worry about ruining the next page. Not that I'm really that worried, because a lot of the stuff in here isn't going to be that great for coloring on anyway. So here's the first page, and at first glance it doesn't look too bad, but when you actually look a little bit closer, you can see that there are these really faint lines that I'm not even sure what they are supposed to be. I think it's kind of more of a continuation of some of the leaves. You can see that like things like the hair and kind of the branches and stuff that are around her neck just kind of get all intertwined together. There's, I guess that's a tattoo on her face, but like each of the pages have something similar. Like here you can see that there's supposed to be clothing here, but they didn't quite, the AI didn't understand the difference between where clothing started and skin, or clothing ended and skin started. And so you can see like these weird wrinkles here that you would expect to see in clothing rather than on skin. But there's no definite like kind of line where the clothing ended. And then there's a hand that's starting down here that's going to be kind of creepy. Anytime that there's a hand in the piece, it is definitely messed up. Of course, the very next page had a hand. You can see here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fingers, and the thumb is in there somewhere, so there would be like 6 fingers on the hand, and then the hand goes right into the hair. So, you know, like I said, the quality is dubious at best. Anyway, I've flipped through and I found this page, and it's not too bad. Overall, I think that this is going to be pretty easy to work with, so I'm going to go ahead and color this in and see what we can make from it. I've grabbed my Ohuhu markers here. This is R18. I'm going to just use that to lay a base layer of color on her skin, and then just kind of keep going from there. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do yet, but figure this is an easy place to start. I need to color her skin anyway. And I'm just using the brush nib because that's the side that I like to use the most. I'm going to color over the tattoo with this base color because I think that'll be okay. I'm definitely getting splotchiness, but that's just, it's going to be fine because I'm going to come back in with more colors later and kind of get some more shading and stuff in here. Alright, now I'm going to pick out some other colors. I'm thinking maybe kind of a tealy color or something for her dress, just because that sounds really pretty. Try like a PB9. Boop. It's a pretty color. It's actually not bad. It's not quite as saturated. It's not that kind of tealy color, but I do like it a lot. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go ahead and color in her clothing with this color. I realize I'm going dark right away on this, and that may be a mistake. I may have wanted to go a little bit lighter to start with, but I can always come back in. I've got some Artix acrylic markers and some other acrylic markers I could come back in with if I needed to bring some other colors back in or some lightness back into this. So I am not worried about that too much. I think it's a beautiful color. That's gorgeous. I want to dress that color. Or a shirt, because I don't wear dresses that much. I realize that this clothing is a little bit weird and unrealistic, but I'm hoping that it'll just kind of end up with this fantasy vibe, and we'll just kind of suspend disbelief about the clothing to a certain extent here. It doesn't matter, because like I said, this sketchbook is, this coloring book ended up being free for me, and it's really not that great quality, so if I end up with something that is terrible, no worries. I didn't ruin anything because it wasn't that great to start with. In the fabric here, there's all these little lines that I think, again, were supposed to be indicative of plants or something like that, but the lines are so light you can barely see them. I'm just going to kind of ignore them and pretend like they are just kind of part of the pattern on this material, and just call it good and just pretend like it's not there, basically. Oh, that's so pretty. That's really pretty color. I am getting some bleeding out on this paper, which doesn't surprise me too much. It is very thin paper. But overall, I'm really liking the colors I've picked so far. Oh, that's pretty. That's pretty. Pretty, pretty, pretty. Alright, what if I make her eyes the same color? That's quite a color for eyes, but I like it. Ooh, nice. Look at those eyes. Those are gorgeous. Very nice. Very nice. Well, I found 3 Copic markers. One of them is completely dried out and like hard. It looked like the lid didn't go on it well. And the other one was a little bit too orange. So I'm just going to go with this nice kind of pinky color here because it's the best one that I could find. Because I didn't want to give her a really bold lip. That's nice. Alrighty. Let's find a nice color for her hair now. Something that maybe kind of would work with the horns as well. Kind of orangey color. It's a little bit hard to figure out where the hair ends and like leaves and stuff start, so I'm just kind of making it up as I go along here. Okay, yeah, that's not bad. I kind of like that color. I like the kind of reddish against that blue green. That's kind of nice. It's got a nice little complementary color thing going on there. And I know antlers aren't necessarily this red, but this is a fantasy piece, so we're going to do this, and we might bring in some other darker browns in here to kind of make this a little bit more realistic. Yeah, that's interesting. With the extra line work in the hair, this is looking a little bit kind of more of a natural color than this. This is looking very, very orange instead of kind of like a orange-brown color. Alrighty, I'm going to just kind of work a little bit more on these horns here. I grabbed this Y9, which is kind of more of this more muted color. It's still kind of orangey, but I think it's going to kind of bring those horns into looking a little bit more natural, a little bit more like horns. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I think I'm just going to go over the whole thing in this, and then maybe we'll come back in with some color pencils or with the acrylic markers. That's the word. Oh, my brain was not going to help me there. You may be wondering, like, why am I even doing this? Like, what's the point of this? And why am I showing you? Well, I'm doing this partially because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for a video this week. And I enjoyed doing the coloring book a few weeks ago, and I thought it would be fun to do another one. And seeing as I had this guy and it wasn't great. Like I said, the quality wasn't great. I wanted to just kind of have a video where I could show people what you could do if you end up in a situation like this, where you end up buying something that just isn't what you originally thought it was going to be, and the quality isn't great. that you can still use it and you can still have fun with it, even if it's not quite what you thought it was going to be. So, you know, I just kind of wanted to play with this and show you that, like, look, you know, just because the quality isn't what you thought it was, doesn't mean you can't use it and make something cool and pretty. So that's what I'm doing here, just kind of using this because I have it and I didn't want it to just sit on my shelf and gather dust and go to waste. So I figured, well, I might as well play with it, and if I make something cool, awesome. If what I make is not that great, well, I certainly didn't waste anything because the quality of it to start with wasn't that great. I don't know how well you can see this, but you can see how much the marker bled out there. In some spots it seems to bleed out a little bit more than others, and I don't know if it's this that like I wasn't super careful with it, or if it's just this paper is just kind of that bad. I'm gonna give her a little warmth in her cheeks, maybe at the end of her nose there. I'm just using, this is a slightly darker version of the color I used for the base of her face. Just trying to toss some more shadows in there, maybe add some warmth in a few places. I just felt like her face is a little bit too flat. Alright, I've got G9 here. I'm just going to kind of color in some of the leaves with some G9. It's kind of a nice light sagey color. And see, it's still kind of a little bit more on that blue side, which I kind of like. And this whole area up here is really hard to tell like what's going on, so I'm just kind of making it up as I go along and hoping that it'll just kind of all make sense in the end, or at least it won't be so obvious that there's something weird going on there. Alright, I've picked this color. It is pretty vibrant green, which I was hoping for something a little bit more saturated, or desaturated, I mean, a little less saturated. Actually, I think it's working pretty well. I was a little bit worried that it was just going to be too much. It was going to be too bright. Yeah, I like bringing in kind of the same color in a few places, because I think it just kind of ties everything together and makes it look like it was on purpose. At this point, anything that's left up in here is really fine, so I think I'm going to grab some colored pencils and just kind of finish this off with that, because everything that's left is a little bit too fine for the markers, especially with how this paper likes to bleed. I see why people like to use colored pencil over top of marker. This is really nice. The marker gave me a really nice base to work with, and now the colored pencil is allowing me to kind of smooth everything out, make it real nice. I'm able to be a lot more subtle with the colored pencil than I was with the marker, because colored pencil is so much smaller. It allows me to kind of be more precise. Like I said, ends up being a little bit more subtle with everything. So that's kind of nice. Overall, I think this ended up turning out pretty good, especially given the quality of the paper that I was starting with and the quality of the image to start with. Put a little bit of white in her eyes. Put a little highlight in her hair. I'm actually really surprised at how well this turned out given the quality of the image to start with and the quality of the paper. I'm going to go ahead and give you some nice close-ups here. You'll probably be able to see where it bled out a little bit here and there and kind of where the lines don't really make sense in a lot of places. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I was a little bit surprised that it turned out as well as it did. And I mean, down here in the chest, it's a little bit funny, but part of that was because of just where the image was to start with. It was a little bit hard, and then kind of how the markers were acting on the paper. Anyway, I don't think I said it at the beginning, but my name is Becky, and this was Bria Makes Art. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing. Leave some comments below, whatever. And I will see you again next week. Bye!